So, in last week's episode of Stargirl, she got the crap beat out of her. And now we're in part 2. Hi guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach to Nerd. And in this episode, we are talking about Stargirl, episode 8, part 2, entitled Shiv, part 2. I got my baby here with me, River Park. Say hi.
Hey.
Because we're just hanging out, and I wanted to review Stargirl, so here we go. So what do you know about Stargirl, baby?
She is a brat who runs off and does things all by herself and doesn't listen, even though she says she's gonna.
River here is not as versed in comics and the comic world as I am, and so I love getting that perspective because it's pretty spot on in what's happening with this series. So I love Stargirl, even though I know it's going to the CW, which could suffer from this Supergirl effect where they were on CBS and had a big budget and had like awesome choreography and writing, and then went to CW where they don't have that type of budget and where they had a rotation of writers, making the quality a not bad, but not as good as where it began. I have a feeling that that may be what's happening with Stargirl as well. I'm praying that it's not, but we will see. Stargirl, though, episode 8. Very, very good episode. Lots of stuff happened. First off, Courtney's recovering from getting her what?
Butt beat.
Exactly. Shiv beat the ever-living crap out of her. I'm sorry, Courtney is not as experienced. I know she's going to get better. That won't be a thing when she's more experienced. But right now, these are learning pains, and they are painful. I felt really bad for Pat because Pat had to basically wreck his favorite car because there was no other way to explain why Courtney was in the hospital to Barbara other than totaling his car. And I just thought that was sad because even Courtney pointed out, you loved that car. So yeah, that was a thing. I really am worried about Barbara and Pat's relationship because watching the show, do you feel like they actually are like us? You know how we're all lovey-dovey? We come home, we tell each other stuff. Or right now we're in COVID, so we don't. But if we did, we come home and we're lovey-dovey. You know, you cuddle with your spouse, you tell them all this stuff. It's almost like they're roommates and they're doing like a recap of, oh yeah, hey, I hung out with my friends, blah, blah, blah. It's just weird. It feels like Pat and Barbara are not married. I don't know what it is, but it's bothering me. It could be that she senses that Pat's lying to her and keeping stuff from her. I could see that being a problem. It's also weirder that she is extremely attracted to Icicle. And it looks like it is reciprocated. When they went on that business trip, that was very, very interesting. There's a lot of sexual tension at that dinner table. It did not stop him from going and killing Mr. Riley, the guy, one of the guys who's responsible for his wife getting sick. Apparently she was a school teacher, and whatever happened with this company, whatever they released with this company, like gas or toxins that she got infected with and died, he is on a warpath of getting revenge. So he is systematically taking out everybody who was responsible for his wife's death. And, you know, grief does some powerful stuff and kind of make you a little bit crazy, even though I kind of felt like he was crazy anyway. So, and it didn't help. Cindy knows that Courtney is Stargirl. And why would she not? Because in the last episode, here's Pat screaming, Court! I mean, of course. It's so funny to me that he stresses so much to everybody. Be careful about your identity. That's a novice mistake. You're a rookie. You're inexperienced. And he literally blew her cover in 5 seconds? Now, I understand he's a parent. And that's what parents do. They see their child, hurt, and all logic goes out the window. But this is just a really weird situation. So I do respect that he wanted to come clean to Barbara. Courtney, of course, did her sob story saying, if you tell my mother, she'll take it away from me. So he decides to go talk to the cosmic staff because, of course, the cosmic staff and him are like this. Although it was a funny interaction. He kind of was like, I don't like you. I know you don't like me. You definitely don't respect me. But, you know, the other people you bonded with, you know, they were adults. And here she is a kid. And you're not taking her away from, you know, the danger. The staff doesn't immediately respond, but it does when he goes upstairs, which makes me think that this staff is alive or some sort of sentient. I know in the comics that Courtney is not the daughter of Sylvester. She's not. That is not her father. I don't know what's going to happen in the story when she realizes who her real father is, which is a Royal Flush Gang member from Gotham. That's what it was in the comics anyway. How that will have an effect, knowing that her father, her biological father, is a criminal. There's a reason the mother's not with him. She's built in her mind, this romanticized version of a father that doesn't exist. She's never even met this man. So I do wonder what the effects are going to be on Courtney when she realizes the truth, and will she feel worthy of the staff, and what is going to happen with this staff? Because again, I feel like this is a sentient staff, so something is happening. There's something going on with the staff. I don't know what, but it's interesting. Henry Jr. is having some issues. His telekinesis and his telepathic abilities are out of control. He eventually is able to find a key and move it telekinetically around the room in every lock until he finds the one in the bookcase. Of course, it's always in a bookcase. And he happens to find Brainwave's outfit or costume. It doesn't mean anything to him right now, because if we learned anything from Yolanda not knowing who the JSA is, the kids of the Injustice Society have no idea that their parents are villains or anything about the society itself. He did find a note, however, that was addressed by Dragon King to Brainwave, where they basically came to an agreement that Cindy would pose as, I guess, Henry Jr.'s girlfriend to keep an eye on him, basically to scope out if he has his dad's powers. It doesn't go that way, but I will say I felt a lot sorrier for Yolanda because she was Henry Jr.'s girlfriend to begin with, and it almost feels like to get rid of her, Cindy basically destroyed her reputation and her life. So that's another casualty that Yolanda doesn't even realize yet, and I'm really curious to know what is going to happen when she realizes that the reason that she was, pretty much outed to the whole school by sending that picture to her boyfriend was to get rid of her so Cindy could get close to Henry Jr. That's messed up. Speaking of the JSA, the lovely JSA Juniors, they are finally bonding as a team, minus Courtney. When Courtney is hurt and they realize that she's hurt, Rick, of course, being the hothead of the team, just wants to use the hourglass and literally go rip Cindy apart. Yolanda was on the fence, and of course, Beth is the pretty much voice of reason in that moment. And I say that in that moment because of what happens later, but we'll get to that. So she basically comes up with this plan to go over to Cindy Berman's house and figure out how Cindy is connected to the Injustice Society. Pat kind of intervenes by showing up as Beth is knocking on the door while Yolanda and Rick are on standby. Long story short, Pat poses as Beth's adopted father, which is very, very funny. That scene of the introduction is extremely funny. While he's pretty much flirting, not really flirting, but being very nice to the stepmother that was created by Dragon King, Beth finds the access door to the Dragon King's lair and is investigating, but she kind of freaks out because she loses contact with, of course, Yolanda and Rick outside. She isn't even able to use Chuck effectively down there, so the goggles are are pretty much misfiring images. It's trying to find things, but it's just the signal is really weak, which makes me think there's some kind of like technology dampeners down there. So she hears like a growling sound, which could be a dragon growl, and she basically books it back up the stairs. So she doesn't want to leave empty-handed, so she heads up to Cindy Berman's room. And now, while that's happening, Cindy is visiting Courtney with chocolates and chit-chat. And then basically says that they're a lot alike. And as she's leaving, she says, "Oh, I love your staff, Stargirl." And then tells her she's not going to basically reveal her identity because she wants to have that knowledge basically to hold over her father because she wants a seat at the table in the Injustice Society. But she does tell Stargirl to rest up because she is going to go kill her friends. So Courtney, being Courtney, who already promised Pat that she was no longer going to run off on her own, runs off on her own with the staff to go save the JSA. Doesn't call Pat, doesn't do anything, in that regard. She just goes off to fight Cindy. So I'll get to that. So Beth finds a picture of Cindy's father. They don't realize it's Cindy's father. They see him as a Japanese war criminal who was like a mad scientist, did a lot of bad stuff. Pat recognizes the picture immediately. But I think the funniest part of that scene is when Beth was in the room and Cindy had just come home from visiting, Courtney. Cindy's coming up the stairs and, first Beth tries to hide in the closet and she can't fit in there, I guess, so there's too much stuff. So Yolanda raps on the window. She goes over to the window and Yolanda's like, come on. Beth's like, I'm scared of heights. And Yolanda just like literally pulls out the window and throws her off the side of the window of the landing. And Rick catches her. And I love that they worked as a team, but yeah, that was frightening. So Cindy and Courtney's battle. Again, Courtney gets her butt handed to her. She does better. She's also injured, but she gets her butt handed to her because, again, Shiv's been training her whole life. And she has powers, and Courtney's powers are only from the staff. And yes, she has agility and she's a gymnast, but she does not on the same fighting level as Shiv. So the only thing that saves Courtney's life is that Henry Jr. shows up and he's reading their minds and he's so confused on what's really going on that he uses a telekinetic jolt to basically hit them both. And then the minions of Cindy's father pull her down a manhole, NT style, and then she just kind of disappears. I don't know if she's still planning on keeping Courtney's secret, but I swear it really seems like everybody now, this is episode 8, they're beginning to know who Courtney is, that Courtney is Stargirl. But that's how it happens in these superhero shows. The identity has to come out. Everyone finds out. It's just what it is. I just didn't think they were going to find out this quickly. But yeah, she's got some problems because now Henry read her mind and he knows she's Stargirl here. He knew that Stargirl is Courtney. Cindy knows and Brainwave knows. And all three, these are bad potential people to know your secret outside of the JSA and Pat. So yes, good episode. Good episode. I'm really curious to see where they're going to go from here. I'm really hoping that Barbara's not going to be spending more time with Icicle and being conflicted in her marriage because that's just too much for me right now. And and I really want them to introduce more of the kids. Like we saw Artemis, but I really want more of the Injustice kids because they don't know that their parents are villains. So I'd be really curious to see how they interact. From the promo, it looks like Courtney wants to induct Henry Jr. into the JSA, which can only be the greatest idea ever. I'm hoping that all of these growing pains, which again I feel are very painful, are really going to sink into Courtney that maybe she needs help and training before she goes off on her own and just decides to do what heroes took years and years and years to come to conclusions of in their tenure. I don't know, but good episode. Cannot wait for episode 9, but I want to know what you guys think, so please leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for Jury Duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next on the Nerd Ballot, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.